Uh, if we could just start with some of your background, when and why you first started playing, and when you got your first guitar and were you taking lessons, just, kind of a very early period with you.
Let's see now. Well, I first started playing at about 14,
14?
which is some 18 years ago, I suppose. And I started playing on a guitar that was lent to me by my next door neighbour, whose mother had given him one. And I never gave it back to him.
What kind of guitar was it?
It was a Spanish nylon string guitar. I still have around somewhere. It's a very cheap one. A $20 guitar.
Did you just start to get books, or were you listening to records? Or?
I just started trying to learn to play along with records originally, and then my parents got me the Pete Seeger Guitar Tutor record, which was a great help. At least it had all the tuning things on the beginning. The first band of the record is all the notes to tune to, which was very useful.
What kind of records were you listening to?
Absolutely everything. It's a very wide field of stuff, from Bill Haley through Pete Seeger, Newport Folk Festival records, and all the regular rock and roll. I have wide-ranging tastes.
Did you get involved in bands, or did you just keep practicing on your own for a while?
Well, I played on my own for a couple of years. I first started getting into bands when I was about 16, 17. I changed through a couple of guitars. I got some terrible acoustic guitar with F-shaped holes on it, and an electric pickup on it. It was the first electric I had. I changed onto a Burns Sonic, which is something I don't guess you had too many of over here.
No,
They're pretty dreadful. But I never liked that. I put that in on a Hofner Club 60, which is quite a nice guitar, really. It was in those days, and I liked it a lot. That was the one I stuck with for quite a long time.
That one?
Until I got my first Telecaster, which was my parents' 21st birthday present for me.
Oh, really? Were you playing more or less rhythm type stuff, or did you start playing lead?
No, I was lead guitarist in the bands that I was in. And well, the first band I was in for a long time was the local band in Cambridge, where I came from. And I was the lead guitar player.
What was the name of that band?
It was called Joke as well. It's a local band.
What kind of stuff were you playing?
Well, you know what it's like, the bands who play in local towns. And they've got to please the people at dances. Everything. Everything that was going.
So there was no original stuff yet?
No original stuff. No. But we did everything that everyone did. Soul numbers, Beatles numbers, Beach Boys, Four Seasons numbers. We were quite into big harmony local numbers, like Four Seasons things at a point. And that was a very good training for me, I think.
So you were already singing at that point?
Yes. Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley numbers. An extraordinary mixture that you wouldn't really find these days, but lots of bands did that in those days.
Did you find any difficulty coordinating your singing and your playing?
Not too much, no. I mean, one doesn't really play lead at the same time as singing too much.
Right.
It tends to be a kind of rhythmic thing when you're singing, lead in the gaps.
Right. So at 21 you got a Tele?
Yes.
Was that something you specifically wanted?
Yes, I'd asked them. I'd said that was what I wanted most of all.
Had you seen someone else using one? Or? Sorry.
Well, I was into Fender guitars, and I knew a Stratocaster was too expensive for my parents. And, so I thought I'd start off with a four. I mean, I didn't expect to get it anyway, but they were living in America at the time, and well, they seemed a lot cheaper than they were in Europe.
So they bought one and sent it back to you?
Yeah. Which I had for about a year or so, and, until I took my first flight to America and TWA lost it. Never came off the plane at the other end. Still, but, yeah, $150 compensation.
Do you think your playing really started to grow at that point when you got that guitar? Because you're able to do so much more.
I don't know. The guitar I had before was quite nice, and in its way. It had a much better sound to it.
What were you doing like immediately prior to Pink Floyd? I mean, playing wise,
Well, the first band that I was in, then I had an offer to go to Spain to do a club, to be a resident band in a club there for the summer. And they said, I mean, it was to me personally, that offer, as opposed to the band that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd had enough of that band anyway. And abandoned it and took Willie and Ricky, the two guys who were on my album, and a keyboard player with me, and we all shot off down there. And we stayed there for a couple of months, and then the keyboard player didn't work out. So he split, and it became a threesome. And we went to France and stayed there for about a year doing that. And then that got out of hand. We decided to jack that one in. And, we went back to England, but Rick and Willie wanted to go to Cambridge, where they came from. And, I thought that if I went back to Cambridge, I'd just fall back into the old trap, and I wanted to get somewhere different than that. So we parted company, stayed in London, and got a temporary job. And a couple of months later, I got this job.
So there was a period there where you were both playing guitars, you said?
Yeah. That was about a couple of months or 2 months, I don't know. I was playing rhythm guitar. Sid wasn't really playing anything.
So then you don't feel like he was like, did you listen to his records, the ones he had done, when you joined the
Yes,
band?
I did listen to them.
Do you think that he influenced or shaped your playing in any way?
No, I don't really think so. I wouldn't say so. I mean, I didn't really start playing lead guitar for a long time. I didn't know what to do. I was a bit lost for quite a while. So I just stuck to playing the chords on the records and singing the words on the records, which is what they wanted at the time to fulfill their contractual obligations for the gigs that we had to do. And it took me quite a while to actually start feeling my way around becoming a part of it properly.
What records are you talking about specifically where you were just playing rhythms?
Well, I'm talking really more about gigs. The record that is relevant to that time is The Source for Secrets.
Was that the first record you were on?
Yes. So I did play some lead guitar solos on, but they were not anything I'd be particularly proud of.
You don't think so?
I mean, I didn't know what to do. I was really feeling around in the dark.
But was their music somewhat, different than what you had been used to?
Yeah, very different.
I mean, that was one of the reasons why you kind of felt a little lost.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
What kind of equipment were you using, like on those first records?
I was using a Selma 50 watt amp with a 4x12 cabinet of some sort, and a small Vinson Echo unit.
And what kind of guitar?
And Telecaster.
Oh, you still have the Telecaster. And you used that for how many albums?
Well, that Telecaster got stolen shortly after that. And So I got a Stratocaster, I think, next, and we had a Telecaster. I can't really remember what I had that time. I had a Strato and Telecaster, which I more or less stuck with one or the other, changing between them through the years. The equipment changed through the years too. We got rid of the cylinders, changed over to Harwood amplifiers around that sort of time, which we stuck with, and gradually the effects pedals thing started creeping in. At that time I didn't really have any. I had this Vincent Echo unit, and then I got a fuzz box at some point. Can't remember exactly when. I know I had a fuzz box before, but it was one of Sid's, and I couldn't really get on with it. I changed that, and then I gradually added a volume pedal as well. Fuzz boxes are terribly hard to control without a volume pedal. While gradually working through all that stuff, and I had a huge line, and I was sitting on the stage with wires everywhere, and batteries running out and breaking down. Until we got to the point where I had to have it all built into one unit with no each power. So I still had down about 72.
So could you be could you be more specific as to what each type of pedal? I mean, like the mix and that type of thing.
Oh, that I use now?
Yeah.
Well, I've been through a couple of completely different pedal boards since then, but basically the pedal board I have now is really a mains and switching unit for a series of standard off-the-peg units, which include NXR phasers, electric mistress flanging, an orange treble and bass booster, big muff fuzz box and a fuzz face fuzz box. I had one of those univibes in there for a while, but that went out to make room for something else quite recently. What else is there? There was a volume and a tone pedal, and everything is on switches that bypass it completely, including the volume and tone pedal.
So this is all built into like a pedal board for you?
Yeah. And at various points in the circuitry I have outlets going external to the pedal board with two sockets with short circuit connectors on, so that you can plug in two short wires and add an external thing into the circuitry at the point you want to put it into the circuitry. And if you pull the plugs out, the circuitry still works because you've got it on those short circuited.
Right. So that's the board you use now on stage?
Yeah.
Is that the same board you use like for your album?
Yes. It's got three switched outputs. I can switch around from different amps.
So what guitar are you using now?
I'm using several. On the record, I'm using loads of them. I'm using about 2 or 3 Stratocasters and a couple of Telecasters. There's Paul and Correct Geosonic Ovation Acoustic. There's not really much acoustic on there, actually.
What do you feel is your main guitar, or are they all your main guitars?
Well, I guess the one I'm most comfortable with is the Black Strat that I use normally on stage with the Floyd. That's true. But I've also got an Esquire converted to Telecaster, my ancient boot-up one. But I also use rather like fairly even between those two.
What year is the Strat?
Well, the Strat is a hodgepodge. It's a 1970 body and electrics with a DiMarzio Strat pickup in it, and the neck is off about 1962.
Have you had any other work done to that? Rewiring?
I've put an extra switch in so I can get any combination of pickups rather than all the switch does is add in the neck pickup. so that I can add that into any other combination I've got going, which gives you a complete combination of everything.
Have you changed the tuning pegs?
No, I haven't changed the
Was it
tuning pegs. No. I put the one of the tone controls on the treble pickup instead of the middle pickup.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use the middle pickup very often, and I'd like to have a tone control.
How was the Esquire converted?
The Esquire has just got, when I got it, it had already been changed into a Telecaster by the addition of a bridge pickup, which had been, looked like it had been on there practically ever since the guitars when it was at 55. Well, it's pretty ancient.
Wow.
And got it off Seymour Duncan. Got it off Seymour Duncan. You know Seymour Duncan?
He's the one that didn't do the work on Beck's guitars?
I don't know, he used it.
Yeah,
yeah. He used to work for Fender anyway, from what I hear. And basically, the pickup and bridge, not the bridge, the neck pickup on it was terrible and useless.
Yeah. You don't play a Les Paul at any point on stage, do you?
Not on stage.
Is there a reason why you've never played Gibsons?
Yeah. I've never really got on with them. I think people tend to stick with what they started off with. What I always wanted when I was a lad was a Fender. Because most of the people that I dated were playing guitar and playing Fenders, so I started with that and I stuck to it.
Because I think, Strats and Tellers are probably more difficult to play than Les Pauls and 325s.
I find them easier
Right.
myself, but I've lived with them all my life, so.
Yeah. What kind of amps are you using now?
High watt, mostly.
100 watts?
Yeah. And I've got some Yamaha kind of Leslie amps. The revolving speakers, have you seen those?
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of those as well.
So you just use a one stack? Yeah.
Well, on the last tour I had two of the Yamahas, which are like 200 watts each supposedly. But they don't. You have to keep them down to get a very nice Leslie sort of sound. But they start breaking off quite low. And I think I have two high watt stacks. In the studio I use twin reverb as well, and a BBM.
Yeah. Didn't Pink Floyd use WEM for a while? Or is that more just sound stuff?
Well, the PA was WEM for quite a long while, and the cabinets, the 4x12s that I'm using are made by WEM. Not for any particular reason, they just happen to be.
So it's a high watt head and WEM cabinets?
Yes, but we did try out some WEM amps at one point for a very short period, but I didn't use them because I couldn't get on with them. I'd used them for bass for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always looked like WEM because the 4x12s have always had WEM on it, but the amps have always been high watt.
Right. What kind of speakers are in the cabinets?
I'm not too sure actually. They're either Fane or Celestia. I'm not too sure.
Do you play much acoustic guitar?
Yeah, quite a bit.
What kind? Oh, the Ovation?
Well, that's what I've been using for recording lately. I got a couple of Martins as well. 45 D18, I think. And a reasonably recent D35 as well.
Do you use a pick when you play acoustic?
Well, it depends. I do some finger picking too, a little bit. I used to do some on some of the records in the earlier days. I haven't done any lately, but yeah, mostly I guess it.
Mm-hmm. What kind of picks and strings do you use for your electrics?
Well, years ago I used to use regular Gibson Sonomatics. I really liked them, but they were a bit too heavy. And I didn't use them at the top end. So then I went to Ernie Balls because I could get them a bit lighter. And recently, I don't know quite when Gibson started bringing out those Sonomatics in custom gauges, and I'm using those at the moment mostly. I did try out the EP40Ls, which are the Gibson light. those 340Ls, but they weren't the same type of string. I mean, they're not just lighter gauges of the same type of string. They're actually made with different metals and stuff. And but I use those quite a lot on acoustic, the 340Ls. But on a regular guitar at the moment, I'm using the Gibsons again, which are in 44, 24, 24, 16, 12, 10 gauges.
That's still kind of heavy, isn't it?
That's pretty light for me. It's, I mean, on stage actually with the Floyd, I use heavier gauges again on the bottom three. I still use 10, 12, and 16 on the lighter strings, but then I use like 28, 38, 50 on the heavy on the bottom string.
And that's for what?
When I'm working on stage.
Oh, this is
heavy-handed, you know.
So this is just for the studio. This other gauge you told me.
Yeah, well, that's what I've been using because I haven't been on stage for a while. Yeah.
I see.
Yes, I tend to use that in the studio.
And what kind of picks do you use?
Mostly Herco. Plastic ones.
You like those?
Yeah, glass of wine. I like them for that. I don't like them for acoustic. I think.
No, thanks.
Don't use them for acoustic guitar. That sounds a bit hard or brittle.
Lighter.
Sort of thing.
Is that a medium Herco that you use?
Heavy.
Heavy? Are you really a bit heavy-handed when you play?
Yeah.
It's like you like your rhythm stuff. It sounds like it's kind of. Or is that just something that
That's just the natural way I am. I've never managed to get to be very light fingered on the guitar. I'm just not that sort of fan.
Yeah. Even your lead stuff is kind of that kind of real attack type stuff.
Yes. I mean, that's the way I am. I can't avoid it.
Yeah.
I'm not very fast.
Some of you've never constantly tried to sit down and try to, really practice and work
I
out.
practice scales and things, but my fingers and coordination really aren't in the same league as a lot of other people that I can think of. I don't mind that particularly. I mean, I'd like to have the technique there, but I think a lot of other people abuse it. So for me, what counts is what comes out of the head.
I mean, you seem to be a real economical kind of melodic player, like someone could really sing all your solos. I think Dark Side of the Moon's, the solos on there are just, really perfect.
I am I do like solos that have the melody to it in some form. I mean, a lot of the solos that I hear that are very fast, I can't understand at all. They're not attractive to me. So I couldn't want to play like that even if I could.
At what point in your work with Pink Floyd do you think that, and you mentioned the first couple albums you're still kind of, searching for yourself. At what point do you think, your playing really came together? And
Oh God! Well, I mean, it was really only the first album that I was very uncomfortable with, and that was the first one, and after that I started fitting my way in, and they started moving towards a style that I could accommodate more as well. So we moved together a lot more, and that did become a lot easier from that point. So it was, I would like to describe a point where I became where I really felt I was getting on top of it completely.
to some narrow way on, something like that.
I felt quite uncomfortable on Narrow Way.
Really?
I can't really remember much about doing that, actually, to tell you the truth.
I mean, what about your solos on Dark Side of the Moon? Do you think that was?
I think they're okay, pretty good.
I mean, because that album just seems to really, Pink Floyd had a reputation before that really put him on the map.
Yes, no, I think I did some quite good ones on that, and on the one before, the album before, I think I did quite a good thing.
What was the one before that?
Medal. And in fact, the soundtrack Obscured by Clouds that we did, I quite like some of the guitar work in there.
Are your solos in the studio kind of first take type things, or do you really sit down and try to work things out?
I tend to first get out there and just hammer away without thinking about it at all. And, don't look at the frets, and I don't think about the key, and just try and feel my way around it completely in the dark, so that maybe something slightly unusual crops up.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just feeling it out, and I gradually kind of work that into some sort of a shape. Not so I've got the whole thing together, but I usually make it into some sort of shape. I have one or two little bits that I know what I'm going to do. Little moments. Then when I think I'm about ready, I try to take one and get it off more or less in a go if I can. When I feel I've got the shape of it about right.
Right. When you're soloing, are there certain scales or runs or figures that you tend to work from, or...
I'm sure they are, yes. Not sure, let's see.
I mean, a lot of
There's
your
all
stuff...
sorts of little tricks that one does use.
Can you be specific as to what kinds of things?
The little tricks people use, it's like little hammering on tricks and things like that, which I use at times to try and sound faster than I am, because for just a few seconds or just a little tiny bit, sheer speed is very effective if it's put into a context,
right.
And that's where I miss not having it.
What do you think about people like Jeff Beck?
I love Jeff Beck.
Yeah. Like his Blow by Blow album.
I love his Blow by Blow album.
It's really great, isn't it? Yeah. And he's a guy who really is faster than a lot of people think, but he really...
He doesn't abuse it.
No, it doesn't.
Like a lot of people. That's one of my favourite albums.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because he really takes a Strat and really makes it not sound like a Strat, which is something that you do. You explore the boundaries of not making guitar sound like a guitar.
Yeah. There's the track on here called Definitely. Yeah, it's is influenced by that sort of thing.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll listen to that again. Would you have liked to have done something like that?
Yes, I'd like to move into that for myself as a personal thing a little bit. I don't know whether I could. I like that area that he's doing. I can't play like that. I'm a person who's stuck within certain limitations in what I've got, and I have to live and work within that. And me trying to be a virtuoso guitarist of the type that Jeff Beck is would be a failure. It just wouldn't work out right.
Do you think your playing on your album is different than what you're playing with Pink Floyd?
I wouldn't really say it's particularly different. Some of the solos are done faster, they're a little more a little fresher maybe at times. It's more off the cuff. I'm very pleased with some of the guitar work on them.
Are you? Is there anything specifically?
Raise My Rent.
That's the instrumental, right?
Yeah,
yeah, I like that.
I really like what I get into towards the end.
What's the one kind of like a fuzz sound that you use? It's like a real kind of a grating thing you use like when you play your chords. It sounds like it's a fuzz. I can't tell. It's, it's like Pink Floyd. Dark Side of the Moon had it. Like a beginning of a couple of songs and like solos. Like, is it just that fuzz you use?
I guess so. Yeah. I use a fuzz quite a lot to dirty it up and I smooth it off with a bit of echo again. And I use very fine adjustments on the fuzz boxes. There's things like I pull the volume control off, the fraction off full volume on the guitar.
Oh, really?
And that makes the fuzz box work completely differently. And I take the fuzz control fractionally off the top as well on that. And you can hear it click when you take it off. and it's gone from absolute maximum to just less. But you can get quite a good point there, which is what I find works for a lot of the things I do.
You phase your guitar a lot too. You like doing that?
Yeah.
Are there any other special like miking things you do in the studio with Pink Floyd or?
Not really, no. I mean, fairly regular sort of things. I could have a close mic on there if I wanted a distant mic too, get a bigger sound.
Will you like lay down rhythm tracks and then overdub like vocals and leads and things like that?
Yeah, that's generally the way I do it.
Are you doing like the harmony parts too on some of the songs?
Yeah.
Mm.
Have you heard it, Al?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I really like it. I think there's a lot of songs that. Do you sing many songs with Pink Floyd?
Yeah, quite a few.
I mean, I don't think people think that you sing that many without, from here. I mean, you can hear what songs that you sing,
Right. Well, I mean, I do. I did less on this last Pink Floyd record of Animals than I usually do, but I'm usually do more than anyone else, I guess.
You play some keyboards too?
I did on this, yeah. That was a struggle, though. I'm not too good at it. It's really functional stuff. Even at times on there, there's I did one Hammond track through a song, and I couldn't learn it well enough. I couldn't change the chords fast enough, so I'd play a chord, then take my hands off and leave it blank for a second. Then I'd record another track on there and fill in the blanks. Little tricks like that you can get away with on recording.
Yeah. Was this just material that Pink Floyd didn't have time to record, or?
No, this is all written after the end of the last Pink Floyd tour. And I started putting down some ideas. I've got one of these exactly the same as that I carry around with me everywhere. And when an idea comes to mind, I stick it on there and then I forget about it again. And I can go back later and listen to it and think, well, yeah, that's something that's worth working on, and work from there. But all the stuff on there is written after the last Pink Floyd tour.
Everything you do, I mean, like your guitar playing and your singing and your writing is very, melodically oriented.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a rock and roll fanatic in a way, but it's always got to have some melody to it. Some of it that I hear these days hasn't got any really, but all the old original rock and roll records had melody to them. But I know they all had something going that was melodic to me.
I think maybe that's why some of the earlier Pink Floyd stuff, well, it did have melody, obviously, but maybe it was a little shadowed behind everything else. And that's why, Dark Side of the Moon was just perfect. Are there certain settings that you use, like on the Strat and like the high watts and stuff when you're playing live that that you found give you the right combination of tone and volume and
Well, it's a permanent struggle trying to get the right sound, I tend to like the sound of the guitar when it's all flat out. And
do you like using a lot of treble?
yes, I mean, I use quite a bright sound.
Yeah, you do.
Like a fairly bright sound. I mean, I like a lot of bottom to it as well. But I do like a fairly bright sound.
I mean,
I like a sound that, I like when I'm doing a loud guitar solo. It's just sound like things ripping and I mean, I really want it to go right through people's heads.
Yeah. You don't play any acoustic on stage, do you?
Sometimes I do, yes.
Really?
I used to quite a bit. On this last tour I would have done, but we had an extra guy in and he was doing it instead. So that I could stay on the regular guitar and not keep changing it.
Do you practice?
What, guitar? Not what you'd call practicing, really. I mean, I play a guitar every day, but there's no great discipline between that and the way I do it. I mean, there have been periods of my life when I have practiced fairly. I mean, I've been through periods to try and find out whether my technique won't improve because I'm lazy about practicing, or whether it really is something that I'm built with. And, I did do it for a long time, but it still doesn't really make a dramatic improvement in what I do.
Yeah. Do you compose on guitar?
Yeah, usually.
Are there certain keys that you like playing in, that most of your songs tend to be written in?
Well, there's a lot of keys that I don't like playing, but I mean, all the easy ones down the bottom of the neck of the I tend to be in, E, A, D, G, all those keys. Don't write much in B flat. That's what they tend to be.
So, when you first joined Pink Floyd, the fact that they had kind of a reputation as being a band that worked a lot with sounds and things like that, did you consciously think, well, I got to go in and and make the guitar sound like things?
I guess I must have done that. Yes. I did start working on the guitar, trying to find strange sounds that I could get out of it, which you can find an awful lot of with a Strat.
Mm-hmm.
Playing with the Tremolo unit and playing the strings at the other end of the head, or plucking the springs in the back.
You used to do stuff like that?
Yeah.
You still do?
I don't now. I haven't really done much of that lately. But when you get it all going through a heavy delay echo unit and you start plonking the springs inside, you can make extraordinary sounds come out of it. I used to do this thing where I had, I don't know if you've ever done it, you plug a Fender through a wah-wah pedal the wrong way, and you've got it right down and you're right open.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be like in the off position or in the bass position on a wah-wah. When you turn your volume control up, you can get an oscillator sort of tone. And you can make it a really high screaming whistling sound. You can change the notes just by playing with your volume control.
You mean plugging in the guitar?
You plug your guitar in. I discovered it accidentally one day when I was on a stage somewhere doing a gig, and I plugged the wah-wah in the wrong way round, and I, in the middle of something, I thrashed into it, pressed my foot down on the pedal, and went to frantically wah-wah away, and all that came out was this fantastic screaming noise. And which I later put through a volume pedal and through the echo unit and played with, and actually used to use it on stage. In fact, my footboard that I've got has got a reverse switch on the wah-wah pedal, so I can reverse the way it goes through. So I can get that. That's used in, I use that in the middle of echoes. All the way through that middle bit, and sort of screaming bird-like noise. That's all done on that.
You find that all the pedals give you lots of buzzes and screeches and stuff?
Yes. Lots of the pedals have quality loss to them and screeches and all that sort of stuff. That's why I had my pedal board built the way I did, which is that the circuitry is on all the time, and what you have is not an on-off switch when you go to those circuits, it's a bypass switch.
Mm-hmm.
I've got like the main wires running right through at the beginning, and there are lots of switches, and that's all you're actually connected to. So your signal goes in and out in that much length of wire.
I see.
And you only go through the circuitry of anything when you're actually using that thing. So there's only one or two things in circuit at a time, so that you don't suffer that quality loss, which is what I used to have a terrible time with when it was done the other way, or it was all running through all the things on the floor.
Yeah. So then you really don't need boosters to keep the signal strong?
No. And I've got a volume, I cut the volume control out when I'm not using it. I've got a switch to switch the volume pedal out and everything. And the tone pedal I switch out. I switch out absolutely everything. And I've got a master bypass on it anyway, so that I can kind of preset a combination of things on the board before I cut them all in, and I can cut them all in at once when it's pressing on that, and the whole lot comes in together.
You don't ever get lost
Sometimes, yeah.
dancing around.
Yeah. I used to have trouble. We didn't used to have the right amount of poles on the switches that you could get hold of for you to have an extra circuit for the lights, the little LEDs that come on. And because before when they used to connect it onto the same pins, I used to get clicks and buzzes from the lighting circuit. So I didn't used to even have those on the pedal board before. Didn't have that, and I'd get completely lost because you didn't know whether something was on or off. But at least they've got these switches out in the last few years now that you can have completely separate circuits running the little lights.
Hmm. Have you had the Strat shielded in any way, like inside, to keep it from buzzing? Or?
Not really. No. I always wire the earth through on my Fenders, so I don't have to rely on that bit of silver paper underneath that the earth normally runs through on.
So what exactly do you do?
Well, I just connect the volume, the main body of the volume and tone controls to the outside of the jack plug socket, so that my earth is guaranteed. Because you often get Fenders cracking up or making noise because if the tone control or the volume control is slightly loose with its nut, it stops making such a good connection, and the earth is actually running through that bit of silver paper that is stuck onto the underside of the scratch plate.
Right.
So I always get rid of that. I don't take the silver paper out, but I always have another wire. Put that on.
Do you use a vibrato bar much?
Quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, just something had you heard, like, again, I say Beck because he uses it so great. And there's a couple of people that did too, Hendrix and
I've always
Blackmore.
used it.
You found,
I first had a Strat.
was that one of the main reasons for getting it?
One of the reasons, yeah. Also, I had 3 pickups, and I like Fenders anyway. And I mean, the Strat was always the guitar I wanted to have because my favourite guitar group when I was a lad was the Shadows in England. I don't know if you know much about that. But they were real idols as far as any guitar players in England were concerned when I was young. They never made it over here, but I still listen to them. I think that they were superb in their field. I mean, they made a lot of those other bands like the Ventures seem very tame and silly to me.
Right.
And they're kind of my heroes at the time.
You find that you're able to keep your guitar in tune?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've gone through to assure that? Because, I mean, Strats are just notorious for...
Well, there's several things about Strats that I've discovered over the years that makes them go out of tune. And what the most common thing I think for a Stratocaster is something to do with the front of that of the Tremolo unit, the bit that's screwed into the body from above, where it cuts down at an angle, and you've got the screws go through and it lifts up off the body right there. Well, if those screws aren't adjusted exactly right, if they're all a tiny bit loose, that main piece can jump up and down a fraction of an inch, and that's what always used to do it to me. And I always, before I put strings on, when that plate is lying absolutely flat on the body, I undo them a bit of a turn and take that screw, each of those 6 screws down, so that they actually come down and touch dead onto the surface of the plate. So they don't put any pressure on it, but there's no gap, even a fraction of an inch gap on there, all the way down that line. That's what does it, I think. And that's what certainly has always seemed to screw it up on my guitar.
Yeah.
I've never had, since I started doing that and checking out a few other little things on Strats, I've never had tuning problems.
Really?
The other thing that you can get going wrong is when the string gets caught on the nut at the end of the neck, which sometimes happens when you use the tremolo on. You push it down and the string moves along a tiny bit in the nut, and then it doesn't come quite back again. Now that shouldn't really happen if the nut's right. If you got your nut changed and you did the other thing I said, you shouldn't have tuning problems with the Strat.
Did you replace your nut?
I have, if that has been what has been causing it.
You put like a brass nut in there or something?
No.
Just another...
Just another one, yeah. That doesn't usually happen with Strats, that type of nut. more commonly to do with the vibrato. You know?
Right. Right.
And it shouldn't happen on the vibrato. You know? It's something of not 100% adjusted, like, I think.
How many springs do you use in the back?
Well, on stage I usually use 4 with the heavier gauge strings, and I use 3 with the lighter gauge strings. And then I usually have 3, and then I adjust it some more by how far you screw in the thing that holds the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So that you get it just like a small amount off the body when it's right tension lock. I adjust all that quite carefully.
Yeah. So you do all the work yourself?
Yeah.
Do you use maple or rosewood necks?
Well, the black strap I use is a rosewood neck, but the squire is a maple. And the best necks on the straps, because I have all the maple ones, I think I like them the best. In fact, I like one specifically made by one guy, I think. And all the ones that I've got, because those are the ones I get hold of if I can. I've got TG written on the end of the neck and stuff. I don't know if I suppose that's a guy who used to make early Fender necks at Fender. But I really like those necks.
You just find that they're easier to play on and better sound?
I don't know about the sound, but they feel comfortable.
How often will you change strings?
On the road, I usually change them every 3 gigs or so.
Really? You leave them that long? You don't find that they're lifeless after that?
Oh, really? I thought, right? But in the studio, I can leave them on for weeks.
Really?
I don't change them all the time.
Do you think you're playing with any different live as opposed to stuff you do in the studio? You feel more free when you're playing live, or?
No, in fact, I feel very free in the studio sometimes.
Really?
And, because it doesn't matter at all what happens. And, sometimes, like the process I was telling you, doing a solo in the studio, you go completely dark. I mean, I just thrashed the thing about doing something that I couldn't really do on stage. It was too silly for words, but I do it anyway. And some little things sometimes come out, you know, that I can then use again. So at first it was totally undisciplined the way I work, and later on I put some discipline to it as well. But I mean, they're both very lovely things. I mean, the experience of playing live and the experience of playing in the studio are 2 completely different kinds of disciplines. But, they're like different art forms, if you like. I mean, I really dig both ways.
Do you listen to any rhythm guitar players? Guys known strictly for their rhythm playing?
Not really, no.
Townsend or, Steve Marriott or Keith Richards or anything?
I like Townsend's rhythm playing. I mean, his was a kind of rhythm come lead playing thing, wasn't it? I mean, when he really breaks out on his own as a real lead guitarist, he's no great shakes. I mean, he uses terribly heavy gauge strings.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I don't know how he could manage to play lead with strings on like that.
Yeah. So then, do you think that your playing will improve or is improving, or do you think it's as strong now as it's ever been?
I think it's as strong as it's ever been. Probably now. I mean, I may not be there have been periods when I felt very in practice when we've been working on the road for a long, long time. I felt very in practice, which I obviously couldn't really feel quite as in practice now. But generally speaking, yes, I feel like playing as well as I could. But I think I could improve still.
Does the band have any plans to go out on the road?
Pink Floyd, maybe next year. I haven't got an album or anything done, so I'm planning on starting that sometime.
Would you like to go out with this album?
Yes.
Are you going to do that?
One day I will. I haven't got time to get that all organised and set up and do it before we start working together with Pink Floyd again, and that's my priority.
Do you like working with other guitar players?
I haven't really ever done it very much.
Mm.
I mean, I like working with one on our last tour. I liked having a support rhythm guitar player, which meant I could not do quite all the things that I usually used to have to do before that, which is keep up a supportive rhythm guitar and play lead guitar all at the same time. And when you've done 10 overdubs on the record, and you can only be one at a time, it can be a little frustrating.
Mm. I don't think I have any more questions. Beck's supposed to be getting a new thing together with Stanley Clarke and Lenny White.
Mm.
Should be pretty interesting. I think that's about as far as he can go that way. Then he's going to stop, and he'll do something else.
But he seems to need to have someone around like Max Milton or something.
Exactly, that's exactly what he needs. He's a catalyst like that because he
Yeah.
doesn't write and he doesn't compose, and he's really not a great organizer.
No. And I think that was the high spot of what he's been doing in the
Think
last
so?
year or two.
What about
I
like,
quite like Wire, but not as much.
what about like Truth?
Don't know.
First one,
No, I just
Rod
listen to
Stewart.
it. I didn't really get into that one.
You heard like the couple of things he's done on Stanley Clarke's records?
No.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Journey to Love. He does a solo.
Truth isn't the first Jeff Beck
Yeah.
with Rod Stewart album, is
Right.
it? With,